We're going to turn this into this using these Aiuli watercolors. Let's get going. I'm going to start by adding drops of water to the watercolors so that they can soak it up for a few minutes before I start painting. Next, I'm just going to take a brush and I'm going to start with the reddish pink color at the top. I'm going to follow the color of the rainbow and I'm just going to create some thick stripes on this. So I'm eyeballing it, using the brush to just kind of glide across the heart. I have it on top of one of my little acrylic turntables, but I'm just gently dragging that watercolor across the heart to create the stripe. And I'm just going to repeat this process with my rainbow colors going all the way down the heart. I've had this heart sitting for quite a while and I was like, oh, it's perfect for Valentine's Day. I'm going to use it with some new watercolors that I just got. I got the stone from Rock Inman Inspirations on Facebook. You can look her up. Her name is Talise and she does some amazing cut stones, like all kinds of very intricate shapes. I haven't gotten too intricate of her designs, but I really love the hearts and the circles and the general shapes that she does. They're really fun to work with. The further I got into this design, the more relaxed that I was, because this watercolor, I'm telling you, it's like therapy because it's shimmery and it kind of sizzles when it goes on, and it's just so much fun to use. I let those initial stripes dry completely, and now I'm coming back and adding some more of the watercolor just to brighten them up so they're nice and vibrant. You'll notice that I'm kind of patting the color on. I'm not brushing it on with a heavy hand. And the reason for this is because if you're a little too heavy-handed and you really brush it, you're going to remove the watercolor from the initial stripe. So I'm just kind of adding more pigment to each stripe to brighten up those colors. Now I'm going to take my Uni Pin fine liner pen in the 0.2 size, and I'm going to create some rustic, imperfect lines and dots around each of the stripes. And this kind of reminded me of that phrase we coined, I think in the first year of the channel, of embracing the imperfection. I think there's something to it. I think it gives such a neat and unique and caring, if that's possible in artwork, look to these rocks when you just have imperfection and it doesn't feel harsh and, hard lines. I just love this look. I want to add some flowers to this design, so I'm going to start out by adding some Liquitex gesso as a base because I don't want the flowers to mess with the watercolor stripes. So I'm just adding 3 kind of swirly bases for the flowers, and then I thought I knew what I was doing and I was going to get really creative in creating some paint for the flowers. So I took this kind of cream color and the gold iridescent medium, and I decided to mix them together, and I was like, oh, it's going to create a nice light color that I can add some of the watercolor colors to create kind of a shimmery, lighter version of the watercolor for these flowers. So after I got this mixed, I decided to use the paintbrush to just kind of drip 3 of the watercolor colors into this cream colored paint and mix it up. So my thought is just having a more kind of solid, muted color of some of the watercolors to create these flowers. spoiler alert, it did not work very well. At least not what I had envisioned in my head. It didn't have good solid coverage. The colors weren't muted. They were kind of blech. I just didn't love how this came out. So I decided to switch gears and just pull out the regular acrylic craft paint in a blue, a pink, and a nice kind of peachy apricot color. Apricot? I guess it's Tropic Orange is the official color. So I just pulled out the acrylic craft paints to save the day. I'm taking you down the whole course because you guys like seeing when I make errors, or how I self-correct. So this is a self-correction. My original idea just did not pan out. So I'm using the acrylic craft paints, and this is kind of the look I wanted. I wanted something bright and that would pop. And then we're going to add some fun details to these flowers. If you guys have been around the channel for a while, this technique is not going to be new to you. It's something I love doing. I will do another coat of the base coat, and while it's still wet, I take a darker version of that color. So in this case, a darker, brighter blue with a disposable eyeliner brush, and just kind of swirl it in to create the look of petals. And then I also dipped back into the lighter blue and swirled it together, and it just creates this nice abstract look of petals. So the key is that you want that coat of the base coat to still be wet when you come in and swirl with the different color. And in this one, I kind of stayed in the same color families for each of the flowers. It was just a different, darker version of the flower color, but you can play around. I've done it on different designs where I might have taken the blue paint and put it for the swirls in the pink flower, and then pink swirls in the orange flower. You can do all kinds of things and play around with it to create a different look, but it's just really simple and really easy way. Now I'm going to take some gold paint, and I want to create some little leaves coming out of the flowers. So I just took a thin brush, gold paint, and rapidly realized that I should have put down some Liquitex gesso first, because that gold paint is just not solid and opaque enough to handle this on its own. So I'm going over the gold with the Liquitex gesso to give it a little more base so that the gold leaves can really pop. And while that is drying, I'm going to add a little shimmer to the flowers by going back to the watercolor paint and the disposable eyeliner brush and just adding to some of that petal depth with the shimmery watercolor. Okay, now I'm coming back in for those gold leaves once again, and I'm just going to fill them in. I think it's a nice complementary kind of shimmery color to go along with this design. And I'm just going to fill those in, and then after I get them filled in, I'm going to come back to that Uni Pin fineliner pen and add one last bit of definition to all of the flowers by kind of highlighting those petals and the shape around the outside of each flower. And then I'm also going to add some defining lines to the gold leaves. To tie in with those gold leaves, I'm going to add some of this Deco Art Holographic Illusion gold glitter paint around the outer edges of this rock. This is that really multi-dimensional chunky glitter paint, and it dries and it's so sparkly and pretty. So I thought it would be fun to have an accent color on the edge that would pick up on the gold leaves. You do have to kind of pat it on because it's so chunky. You can't really paint it on, you gotta pat it. But then when it dries, look at this. I love how this one came out, and I hope it gave you some inspiration for a Valentine rock as well. Thanks so much for stopping by to watch, and I'll see you next time. Take care.